Marketing, the showing of that established brand to the potential audience using measurable, tactical means.
So once that brand soul is set and the structure is sound, then the business can deploy its marketing deployment channels, the show. And this list, it covers the entire ecosystem of modern communication and action.
And this is where the execution becomes visible and has to be constantly adaptive. So marketing involves social media promotion, which is the daily projection of that fixed brand personality onto various dynamic platforms.
Yeah.
It also involves search engine optimization, or SEO, which, let's be honest, is no longer optional. It ensures discoverability. When people are looking for solutions on Google, your defined brand identity must be easy to find.
And think about the technical nuance there for a second. SEO isn't just about keywords anymore. It's about authority and relevance. You're optimizing your content, which must perfectly reflect the values and the expertise defined back in that branding phase.
Yes, your marketing team has to execute SEO in a way that aligns with the brand promise. It's not a separate activity.
It also requires intense feedback loops and data analysis. Marketing activities include continuous market research, analyzing what your competitors are doing, what your audience is responding to, and this feeds directly into content marketing and voice searches.
Let's drill down on that voice search element for a moment. This is a perfect example of the how adapting to technology while the what stays the same.
Yeah, good point.
Optimizing content for voice search, where people are speaking to their smart devices using conversational language, that requires a different writing style than optimizing for typed queries. But that conversational style still has to perfectly align with the brand's defined core message and personality.
So the tone of your brand has to be recognizable whether someone is typing a question or talking to Alexa.
It has to be. The tactical work continues with constantly startings, checking stats, analyzing conversion rates, channel performance, engagement metrics. This data immediately informs your advertising strategy. It dictates where your paid dollars are being spent, whether that's on hyper-targeted digital campaigns or, traditional print.
And of course, there's the ongoing maintenance and execution. This includes website optimization and fixing, making sure that digital storefront is always functional and reflective of the high standards set by the brand identity. The user experience is marketing.
It is. If your website is slow or difficult to navigate, that inconsistency damages the brand identity you worked so hard to establish in the first place.
And while the digital world obviously dominates, the sources remind us that marketing still includes traditional tested channels like print or radio advertising. The specific delivery message changes constantly, but the core activity of getting the brand message out, that remains the definition of marketing.
Right.
So if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, the brand needs a soul, a defined character, that's branding, before it can effectively communicate. That's marketing. Trying to market without a fully defined brand is fundamentally trying to communicate without a clear, recognizable personality. You might get some temporary attention, but it's just going to result in confusing, ineffective noise that doesn't build trust or, crucially, loyalty.
You can't be everything to everyone, and marketing without a brand identity makes you try to be.
Yeah.
It's the difference between speaking with conviction and just shouting randomly into the void.
Here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a little counterintuitive for people who are only focused on the latest trends. If branding is the core, the soul, this fixed point, how much does it actually change compared to the tactical execution of marketing? We're looking at the lifespan contrast. Forever versus evolving.
Well, branding is designed to last forever. I mean, not in a literal sense, but in the strategic sense that its core components are meant to be enduring. While no business identity is absolutely monolithic, branding is relatively stable and it should not change drastically over time.
Yeah, if your core identity is shifting every 18 months, you don't really have a brand. You have, as you said earlier, an existential crisis disguised as a rebranding exercise.
That's a great way to put it. The source clarifies the difference between the enduring core and, superficial adjustments. The enduring core includes the brand's values and core goals. These must remain largely constant. If your values say quality or innovation change frequently, your customers won't know what they're buying into. Loyalty becomes impossible.
Consistency is the anchor of loyalty. That's the takeaway.
It is. The slight, acceptable changes that can occur generally involve the outward presentation, not the internal substance. We might see slight adjustments to the brand design, logo, or brand message, a visual refresh, an update for modernity, or a minor tweak to language to better suit a contemporary audience.
But even through those changes, the fundamental brand personality and promise will and should stay the same.
They must.
I mean, think of the classic logo updates we see from major tech companies every few years. They might go from a 3D look to a flat design or change a typeface, but the moment you see the logo, you still know instantly that it's the same company. The core color scheme, the general form, the visual identity established during branding is stable.
And the source specifically highlights other unchanging elements that are so critical for internal alignment. Brand positioning, where the brand sits in the market relative to others, which dictates your competitive edge and internal communication with your staff.
Right.
These elements are the internal compass. They're designed to keep the entire ship on the same strategic course, regardless of external economic tides or shifting ad trends.
And we see this powerful stability played out in the real world with the most successful corporations. Brands like Coca-Cola and Nike are paragons of enduring loyalty. People are loyal to that stable, overarching brand identity, the feeling of optimism, the promise of quality, the connection to athleticism, not just the latest commercial featuring a celebrity endorser. The what hasn't really changed in nearly a century, even if the how of their delivery has.
Now, let's look at the flip side of that coin. If branding is the enduring core, marketing is the dynamic, constantly evolving side of the equation. Marketing strategies are inherently reactive. They constantly evolve and shift over time, reacting to new technologies, new audiences, and most importantly, new ways to capture attention.
To illustrate just how dynamic marketing is, we have this fascinating historical timeline from the sources that shows the radical acceleration of delivery methods. It proves that while the brand's core purpose might be static, the how of reaching the consumer has transformed from scarce paper print to hyper-personalized digital tracking in, less than 300 years?
Let's start at the beginning, with the genesis of mass communication. The sources note that in 1731, the first magazine was published in London. This created a new vehicle for content, a new place for public attention to gather.
But I was genuinely shocked by the historical inertia here. We're so used to instant monetization now, but the source notes it took a full decade, until 1741, for the first formal paid advertisement to be released in a newspaper.
A whole decade.
A decade. That gap shows how long it took for businesses to recognize a new medium as a viable marketing channel. That's a process that happens almost instantaneously today.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? The adoption was initially so slow. It took another, almost 100 years until 1839 for posters to become popular as a mass communication tool.
And that was a crucial shift.
A huge shift. Marketing moved from the contained intimacy of a newspaper or magazine, which required active readership, to a large-scale public visual display. It was the birth of spatial marketing, where you couldn't avoid the message just by putting the paper down.
The next major shift involved harnessing the invisible airwaves. In 1922, we saw the first radio ad. This was a major disruptive move into audio broadcasting, allowing brands to speak directly into millions of homes, bypassing the need for physical print.
And the acceleration just keeps picking up speed. Just 19 years later, in 1941, the first TV ad was released, combining audio and video. This was an unprecedented level of immersive storytelling that dominated the marketing landscape for half a century. It introduced the concept of the 30-second spot as the pinnacle of how you reached your audience.
Then we make the leap to the modern era. The source mentions that the first rudimentary social media platform was created around 1997, but it was really just the quiet precursor. It was the technological possibility, but it wasn't yet the marketing reality.
The real tectonic shift came in 2004. That's when we saw the explosive boom of social media. This fundamentally changed everything. It led to massive social media marketing and advertising on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The shift here wasn't just a new medium. It was the shift from broadcast, one message to many, to target casting.
Many hyper-specific messages to tailored groups.
Exactly.
And that target casting takes us right to the current landscape, the 2020s shift. Personal marketing. We are seeing digital marketing evolve from demographic targeting, 30-year-old men who live in cities, to something far more aggressive and personalized. The delivery mechanism isn't static anymore. It's hyper-reactive based on real-time behavior.
And this is encapsulated in what our sources describe as this scary personalization example, which I think almost everyone listening has experienced at this point.
Oh, for sure.
You might be having a casual conversation with a friend about eating a new refrigerator, maybe some specific high-tech brand, and within minutes, you open your phone, and there is an advertisement for that exact model.
And it makes you stop and just think, was I searched? Was I listened to? And regardless of the exact technical mechanism, whether it's highly specific microdata correlation or actual audio analysis, the feeling created by this invasive targeting is real. Marketing, the how, is adapting in real time based on perceived private conversations and digital movements.
What's so fascinating here is the sheer dramatic contrast over time. The core message branding, the promise of quality or aspiration, that has stayed constant for centuries for some companies. But the method of delivery marketing has accelerated from waiting 10 years for the first print ad to appear in 1741 to instantaneous, hyper-personalized, dynamic digital tracking today.
So the brand needs to remain the rock of integrity and purpose, while the marketing needs to be the fluid, reactive current that navigates these ever-changing waters.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
So, okay, we have the enduring with the brand personality and values and the ever-changing how, the marketing execution. They're clearly different, but how do we combine them for actual measurable business success?
Well, the synthesis is built on acknowledging that interdependence is key. The sources state this explicitly. One cannot go without the other. They must go together for a business to succeed. A business with the most beautiful, meticulously defined brand identity that nobody knows about is, well, it's doomed to irrelevance. Conversely, aggressive, well-funded marketing for a brand with no defined identity is just throwing resources away on noise.
It's the difference between having a map and having an engine. The engine, marketing, gets you moving, but the map, branding, tells you where to go and why you're even going there.
And it fundamentally defines the dual role in the customer relationship, which I think is the most critical strategic takeaway for our listener. Branding handles the retention side, and marketing handles the acquisition side.
That's the perfect, actionable summary. Branding's role is what keeps the customer through loyalty built on consistent values, reliability, and a trusted personality. Customers return, they advocate for you, they forgive minor mistakes because they trust the brand.
And once you know what keeps a customer, you can precisely define the other half of the job. Marketing's role is figuring out how to get the customer through targeted communication, persuasive messaging, and strategic advertising deployed across the correct current channels. It's the constant effort to replenish the customer pipeline using the map provided by the brand.
Therefore, the success formula is undeniable, and it illustrates the necessary sequence. Branding plus marketing equals success. They are two parts of one equation, but you absolutely must solve for the brand identity first.
So let's finish with the final, crisp differentiation that summarizes our entire deep dive, just to make sure the learner has these key concepts locked in for strategic application.
Let's do it. You can return to the simplest definitions, but now we can layer on the strategic implication. So branding is what you're doing. The immutable core mission, the identity, and the promise you make. This dictates every decision about product development and company culture.
And marketing is how you're going to do that. The tactical execution, the communication strategy, the dynamic delivery channels, and the metrics you use to measure success. And this dictates your budget allocation and your channel selection.
This means that marketing is indeed the engine that drives visibility. It's the dynamic, ever-changing force that ensures the world knows you exist and what you offer. It's essential, but it is subordinate to the what.
But branding is the fuel and the destination map. Without the what, without the established mission, values, and trust, the how is just noise. It's an engine running at high RPM without direction or purpose, rapidly burning fuel, which is your resources, without moving towards a profitable, defined destination.
Wow.
If you're spending 80% of your budget on the how on ads and SEO, but you haven't done the foundational work on the what, you are almost certainly burning cash. That's the actionable takeaway.
This has been a truly fascinating dive into structure and strategy. The core takeaway for anyone listening is that if you feel lost in your current marketing efforts, if your messages feel inconsistent, or if you find yourself constantly chasing the latest trend, it is almost certainly because you haven't done the deep foundational work of defining your brand first.
The sequencing is everything. Define your soul, then figure out the most effective way to speak.
That is profound strategic wisdom. Now that we've established that loyalty comes from the branding, the enduring what, which is meant to last forever, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you navigate the modern market.
Yeah, consider the inescapable tension between that enduring brand loyalty and the hyper-aggressive evolution of marketing delivery. The 2020 shift to that scary personal marketing is a dramatic change in the how, It makes the delivery feel intimate, but sometimes invasive.
So if the dynamic marketing delivery feels too targeted, too intrusive, or changes too rapidly in a quest for clicks, does that aggressive how inadvertently chip away at the fundamental trust that the brand's lasting identity is supposed to establish?
If the method of communication feels manipulative rather than helpful, is the aggressive dynamic marketing ultimately undermining the static, valued branding? It's a question of integrity versus intrusion, and every successful brand in the digital age has to answer it with strategic care.
Something critical to think about as you navigate both your own business strategy and your personal digital world. We've unpacked the difference between branding and marketing, and now you know why the identity must always precede the outreach.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.